evening and welcome to another show. Do you like the little introduction? Good, wasn't it? Yeah, I thought I'd give it a try, you know. Anything for a laugh, you never know. Well, this week we've got an even more exciting show. So, you know, the pigeons might crap even more as they did last week. But anyway, putting that aside, I've got a couple of dirty gags for you. So that's coming up a bit later. And I do hope YouTube won't do what they did last time. I think I've managed to skirt around, shall we say, being politically incorrect. But first of all, two things. I hope you're enjoying new weekly shows with Colin, the paranormal. Well, I did say investigator. He's more like a detective because he's really into the paranormal, and he not only uses the internet, he looks at books as well, goes through reference libraries and looks through all the data, and he's even planning to go to France to speak to members of the family that knew that stigmata, and so he really does thoroughly go into things. Now on the mystery program, which is usually broadcast sometime of the weekend because it's recorded on Fridays, and it was a little bit late this time. It was actually downloaded this afternoon because Colin had a lot more research to do. But the mystery program that we did, the first one, I mentioned Mother Teresa, and I incorrectly, I hasten to add, I made a mistake, said that oh, you know, she's not what we said she is, and that she's been found out, blah, 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 blah. Well, I had a phone call from a friend of mine the next day who said, oh, Mother Teresa, I thought she was a marvellous woman. And did she live in riches? Did she live in luxury? Good question. Now, Colin and I were going to do next week a program about Mother Teresa, but we decided not to because that's not to do with mysteries. It's something completely different. So what we decided to do, I said, well, look, I'll mention it tonight on tonight's live program, because what we're going to do next week on the Mystery Hour is, well, I'll tell you after I've spoken about Mother Teresa, okay? Now, I've done a little bit of research today, and apparently it was Christopher Hitchens, the late Christopher Hitchens, because he's got a brother, like Peter Hitchens, who, inverted commas, exposed what was going on. Now, what I've looked at, I tried to find the answer to the question, did she live in absolute luxury? And after a fair amount of research, I don't know. I don't know if she lived in Calcutta. I really don't know. But I've looked through and I've come to the conclusion that her heart was in the right place. But it's like everything else. If you start a huge organisation, and she became quite famous after Malcolm Muggeridge did a documentary about her in the 1960s. And of course, her organisation, or for better words, whatever it's called, expanded. And of course, when something expands, you get charlatans come in and all kinds of things happen. And my personal view, and I could be totally wrong, so please don't accept what I'm saying, I apologise for making a mistake because I thought she was not nice. Well, it turns out, I believe, that her heart was in the right place. She tried to do good for people, but there's a lot of, shall we say, dodgy people that went into her organisation. And it's like most things, it's a pyramid structure, and of course she put the can back because she was the head of it. So that's what I think. I think her heart was in the right place. She probably didn't know, or may not have known, what was going on, and I will stand to be corrected, but that's as far as I've researched. And I think it's like most things. When you look at charities, for example, Dr. Bernardo's, when it was first set up, I think Dr. Bernardo was a very good man. But, well, I won't say anymore. I've got no time for charities today. And a lot of these people, you know, it's like Booth with the Salvation Army. It's very good. It did helped a lot of people. But I'm afraid that when money comes on the scene, things tend to go AWOL. I won't say any more than that. And I'm sure they're very good charities, but I don't personally give to charity at all, large ones, because I personally believe, and I'm not saying they're all, but they're businesses, basically. That's why I look at it. Anyway, you're probably wondering what Colin and I on the Mystery Hour are going to cover next week. Now you're sort of going, what is that going to do? Well, actually, what we're hoping to cover is disappearances. Now, in the national parks in America, a large number of people disappear very strangely. Huge search parties go out looking for them. And then a couple of days later, the person will appear, they're usually dead, minus most of their clothing, right in plain view where the search party has been. And there's an ex-police officer that's looking into this. And of course, there's disappearances all the way around the world that are unexplained. So that's what we're going to look into. And of course, on future programs, we're going to go into Bigfoot, cryptozoology, and all kinds of things like that. But Colin, as I say, there's two paths that most researchers go into, either the scientific one, where they debunk everything, or the spiritual one, where they try and debunk the science. Well, Colin goes straight down the centre. He gives you the information and you make up your own mind. And for example, we may cover UFOs, but but it will only be things like animal mutilations and things where we've got black and white information, not, I knew a bloke at a pub and knew someone that saw a UFO who did this, and no, none of that. It'll be bang, 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 bang. As you could tell by when you listen to the programs, he does a thorough research. So that's it. Now, this week, I'm looking at when governments tell you that everything, they're doing things for the safety of the public. Now, have you noticed when you go into a department store now, I went into one the other week, and it said, for your safety, there are security cameras. Safety from what? I mean, what exactly makes the place unsafe if there's no security cameras there? I mean, how did people shop years ago, 100 years ago? Did the roof fall in on them, or I don't know, something fall off the shelf? What they really should say is, we think you're a crook and that's why we're watching you. But it's a polite way of saying it, isn't it? For your safety. Well, if there's a pickpocket, there's as much chance of you having your pocket picked outside the store as inside the store. So, but why can't they come to the point? Say, we think you're a flaming crook and that's it, But have you noticed that the government is saying everything is safety now? You've got to stand 2 meters away, and if you do this, you've got to be safe. Well, that's not new, because every tyrannical government has introduced draconian measures under the lie of keeping the public safe. And I've been dipping into a little bit of history. And first off, in the former Soviet Union, and I've got to refer to my notes now. Where are we? I've lost them. Oh, here it is. There was an anti-religious campaign from 1928 to 1941, which of course 1941 was the year of Operation Barbarossa, when Germany invaded the USSR. And that's a story all in its own, which I'll cover on another week, because what we've been told about that is not quite right. Anyway, what Stalin did, he had the Orthodox churches and that burnt down. He had the priests shot. This is more than 85,000 Orthodox priests were shot in 1937 alone. Only a 1/12 of the Russian Orthodox priests were left functioning in their parishes by 1941, a 12th of them. My word. And it said here, in the period between 1927, excuse me, and 1940, the number of Orthodox churches in the Russian Republic fell from 29,584 to less than 500. So what I'm saying is, what they said was they are abolishing religion and clamping down on the churches for the safety of the public. Interesting, isn't it? And then Mao did similar. He went for what he would call the bourgeoisie, and he clamped down on anybody that had any free enterprise. Well, he couldn't have free enterprise, but anybody that was a little bit, shall we say, thought for themselves. And he did exactly the same for the, inverted commas, safety of the public. But the similarities between then, I mean, okay, I mean, I'm not religious. I believe there's an energy, but what the energy is, I don't know. But I think a fella in a black cloak with a collar back the front knows probably the same as anybody else. We don't know, but I do respect that there is an energy, and what that energy is, as I say, I don't know, and I don't claim to know. But I do believe that if you're good within, that radiates out, and like attracts like, love attracts love, hate attracts like hate, and so on. So that's my sort of simplistic view of life. And to me, my church or cathedral is woods and sunshine and blue skies and that type of thing. Yeah, a bit of a hippie without the hair. So when you look at today, what's happening, we now have things for, inverted commas, our safety. And Boris with a fuzzy mop of hair, he's passing law after law after law for our safety, and a clamp down on free speech. Now, I'm optimistic, because when you look through history, every totalitarian society, and people say, oh, this is a democracy, this isn't totalitarian. Well, I've got some news for you, and I'll say this again. I've said this 1,000 times, and I'm sure you're going to say, oh, bloody hell, he's not about that again. That usury scammers rule countries, and they're unelected. Unelected civil servants run countries, and governments are there to take your mind away from those first two facts. Because anybody in office or in a political party that says, let's abolish usury, they'll have a very short political life. Let's put it that way. Okay, so no, it's all, we haven't got freedom. It's nonsense. But the thing that I am optimistic about is that censorship is the last gasps of a totalitarian society. Because when you look throughout history, whenever there's extreme censorship and it gets more and more and more, it means that those in control are frightened that people are waking up. So what do? They're like a little boy sticking their fingers into the holes in the dam, trying to stop the water come through. And every time they try and stop the water, then it comes through somewhere else. Now, when Ceausescu, when he was in power, he actually banned comedians from speaking. So what did they do? They actually did mime acts, which were much more funny, and they got around the laws. And then they brought out even more laws and more laws and more laws. So to me, whenever censorship is excessive, that's a good sign, because it shows it's the last gasps of those in control, because they're worried. They're very, very worried, because they wouldn't need to censor things. Things were free. Now let's go in the chat area. Now, if you're on Facebook, you won't be able to see this. I'm sorry, but I'll just read out. Hello, it's Stewie again. Hello, Stewie. Good evening. And we've got some spread lies, others spread the truth. Who is who? There are not laws, there are acts. That's quite correct, because we've got well, there's statute law, isn't there? and then there's common law. Now, I'm a great believer in common law because common law is injury, loss, or harm. And that's what the police should be there for, to protect you from injury, loss, or harm. Criminals, not dear old ladies protesting outside Parliament and things like that, but from someone that's going to knock you over the head and rob you. That's what they should be there for. Now, we've got another one in here. Another question. Sorry, another comment, not question. Think that is part of the plan. The power that shouldn't be wish for government to fall. Yes, you've got a good point there, because as I said the other week, the 4 stages of ideological subversion is demoralization, destabilization, fake crisis, and new normalization. And something I've noticed, I don't know whether you've noticed this, especially on, I won't say the name, social media, shall we say. There's a lot of films of people being apprehended by police for not wearing obedience muzzles. And I think those films are fake. And I think they're put out deliberately, and they're crisis actors that's in them. Because the police are not allowed to, they can't actually they can say you haven't got a mask, but they can't actually tell you to wear a mask or obedience muzzle, because it's a doctor that can prescribe that. So it's a thin line in the law. And I think a lot of those videos, some might be true, some of them are fake, and I think they're trying to turn people against the police. That's why you're seeing all this angry stuff. And not always, some, yes, some not. But I know that in Paris, for example, it's a no-go zone. Now, they won't tell you that on the BBC, Bolsheviks broadcasting communism, as I call it. But Paris, apparently, there's riots galore. And I shouldn't say this, I've got quite a bit of respect for the old yellow vests. I think they are well organised. They seem to know what they're doing. And I saw in the summer, I think it must have been the south of France, a fantastic video. And it must have been somebody with military background who organised the yellow vests, because what they did, the whole crowd were there and they retreated. This is the oldest trick in the book. And the police gave chase. But what they didn't realise is it was a very skillful military operation, because the yellow vests did a pincer movement and then surrounded them and then went in and bottled them up, and they were terrified. There they were with their truncheons and that, and then all of a sudden, a signal, they stopped, the protesters, and just surrounded them. And you've never seen such terrified police. And the protesters stopped throwing rocks and things, and they just stood there and waited. And that was a precise, nobody was hurt, nobody was harmed, but that is skillful manipulation. I say manipulation, that is skillful military tactics. In this country, what happens, it rains and everybody goes home because they're frightened of getting wet. I mean, but yeah, there have been processes, but I don't like violence. And as I've said many times before, I like the Gandhi approach, which is peaceful civil disobedience. But, and there's a big but, people won't become disobedient until they are queuing for half a loaf of bread and they're starting to get hungry. When their bellies are hungry, bellies are empty, then they'll do something, but not until. People are too comfortable at the moment, and they've got to get a little bit uncomfortable. But it's quite right what you said, some spread lies, others know the truth, who is who. I think it's part of subversion, where they want the entire system to collapse, and then some bozo will come along who promises the earth but that won't deliver, and he gets thrust into power, and then you'll have draconian measures that will make Stalin and Mao look like a walk in the park. And it does look very much like that, but people just don't want to know. They're a bit like a donkey with a carrot in front, on a stick in front of it. They just follow it. But that's what I dread. That's what I think that they're up to. They want to crush what is actually happening now and bring in this new communist world government type of thing. And that's probably the only way they're going to do it. And people like Boris and that, they're just what they call useful idiots. And once they've served their purpose, they'll be off they go, you know. Now let's have a quick look in chat, see what we've got here. Hello. Some spread lies, others spread the truth. Police are policy enforcers. Private corporations, yes. G4S. Yeah. Some, I know that. I'll tell you something I saw once. A police car that's supplied by a garage. And it's got adverts for the garage on the side. Once upon a time, that would have been strictly illegal to do. And I'll tell you something else I've noticed. Now, there's a kind of discrimination starting now. Now, I've had this several times. Now, I tend to dress when I go shopping like most other people. I don't stick out like a sore thumb. I never have T-shirts with anything written on it. I'm an introvert. I'm quite a shy person. So I kind of blend into the background. And when I walk into a shop, I generally sort of walk in with a kind of confidence. You know, I know what I want. There it is. Well, the other day, I went into a posh shop, you know, the pound shop, and I buy a Zaflora disinfectant. I've got a funny story about that, which I'll come on to a little bit later. But I haven't got shares in Zaflora, but it's pretty good disinfectant because a little bottle, which costs £1 in the pound shop, you dilute it, one part Zaflora to 40 parts water. It lasts for ages, and it's really good disinfectant. Anyway, it's right at the back of the shop. So I'll go prancing in here the other day. I don't wear a muzzle because I don't really want to not only spread germs, but breathe them in. And the muzzle is a perfect way of getting bacterial pneumonia. Anyway, I zoomed in there, and there's a few other people without actual mask, but that day I was the only one, you see. So anyway, I was looking for this Zaflora stuff, and I had this feeling of a presence. And I looked round, there's a security bloke standing there. So took no nice notice of him. And I also buy cycling glasses from there because they're only £1 and they come up to UV 400. And when you're cycling, you get all, because I like driving, I love driving and I love cycling. And you get all dust and crap in your face when you're cycling, not driving. And so you need some glasses on. And these things last, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And I might sit on them and crack them accidentally, or they crack, they're a bit cheap. So I just discard them, buy another pair. Anyway, I was looking around there. And everywhere I was looking, this security guard was following me around, because I stood out because I wasn't wearing an obedience muzzle. And I felt like, you know, that scene from, I think it's Death in Berlin, that film with Michael Caine, when he goes during the Cold War into the Soviet or the East German sector, and there's this Soviet agent following him around. And he turns around and says, "Oh, do you fancy me or something?" And that's what I felt like saying to that security guard. Anyway, it's a bloody great queue in there. So I thought, oh, sorry, I won't buy these things. So I walked out empty-handed, you see. Anyway, 10 minutes later, I went in there to see if the queue had died down a bit. And there was a woman and a little child. And she was shopping. And the security guard was following her around as well. And it was kind of intimidating. Didn't say anything, but just intimidating. And as I say, I don't stick out like a sore thumb. Don't think I look particularly suspicious, you know. But I stuck out because I wasn't wearing an obedience muzzle. So, you know, and I just wonder if anybody else has noticed this as well. But, you know, this is the thing. We're closer to communism now. Well, we are communists now because that's how the communist system works. Because all the masses all believe what they're told, like sheep, and it all works on fear and safety for the public. And that's how the Soviet Union did it. That's how Mao did it. Fear and safety for the public. Like in the Soviet Union, there was this massive campaign that said that the decadent West, little bit of Russian there, were spraying their beautiful fields, their crops, with pests, so to wipe out their crops. So they got all the children from schools going around and looking for these pests that didn't exist on their potatoes and things like that, because they thought that the decadent Wests, such as America, were dropping Colorado beetles and maggots and God knows what onto their beautiful crops of potatoes. And no, they weren't. There wasn't a scrap of evidence that was being done, but it got everybody fearful because there's going to be a food shortage. We better get the children out looking for these crops. And everybody's looking around, looking at the potatoes, looking at the leaves and everything like that. It's keeping them busy, isn't it? And then whilst that's going on, they say we better have some more draconian laws put in place to protect the public. So that's my little rant for today. So I'll just have a quick look what we got here in chat. Most are staged. That's right. I've noticed a lot on, shall we say, social media that is staged. A heck of a lot. And there's shall we say, controlled opposition groups springing up now. One that has a logo of a cross. I think you know which one I mean. I believe, allegedly, there's a fair amount of evidence that they're probably controlled opposition. And then we got here, what we got? Never give your details, never answer questions. Yes, the best thing to say politely is, I don't answer questions. I mean, I was out shopping. I have an exciting life. And I had one of these sales people come up to me saying, what is it? Do I like animals or something? Because they wanted me to donate to their animal charity. So I just politely said, I'm afraid I don't answer questions. Yes, but do you like animals? I don't answer questions. And with the police, a little tip I got from my father was, he said, they are obsessed with rank. So always address them the rank above what they are. So if they're ordinary police officer, say, yes, Sergeant. He said, makes them feel good. Give them a little bit of praise and then back off. Get the back face politely and just withdraw, because most people are doing that job because they like bullying other people around and they get a bit of a high for doing it. So if you just diffuse the situation, make yourself scarce and just back off. But if you're a cop, you're gonna get yourself into trouble. Just polite, smile. Yes, Sergeant. Yes, Superintendent. You go and, probably get himself super excited around a corner, or she might, you never know. Who knows? Anyway, a few more of your answering questions means you stand under their authority. That's correct with the police. When they say, do you understand, which I've never had, do you understand, that means do you stand under, and you should always say no. Do you understand? No, I don't understand, because then you're saying I'm not entering into your contract, because basically if you're not assaulting anybody or you're not going against anything to do with common law, everything else is a statute, and as such it's a legal contract. So you do not wish to enter into their contract, and that's basically what it is. But again, always polite, ducky, very sort of that. And talking about ducky, I know there's not that much dirty joke, but I think I've cleaned it up a bit, this one. So I don't think I'm going to get booted off of YouTube for this one. So two gentlemen of the Philip Schofield Appreciation Society, I think I covered that quite well, walking along the side of a harbour, you see, and it's winter and it's a bit slippery, and one slips arse over tit into the harbour, you see. And he goes, help, I'm drowning. And his mate's running backwards and forwards, don't know what to do. And his mate shouts out, shall I throw you a boy? And he said, don't be stupid, I ain't got time for that, I'm drowning. Yes, it is a bad one, isn't it? And the other one before I go is, you've probably heard this one before. I did say it, but I liked it so much I think I might tell it again. I said this last year actually, and that is the psychiatrist joke. Bloke goes into a pub before the regulations, and he says, "Pint of Guinness, please." And the landlord says, "Oh, certainly, sir." Gives him a pint of Guinness, drinks it down, gets up on the bar, unzips his flies, and piddles over everybody. He's got like this. People say, "Bloody hell, what you do? Oh, Christ." I said, "What the bleeding hell's going wrong with you?" He said, I'm terribly sorry." He said, "This is so embarrassing." He said, "This keeps happening." He said, I'm so embarrassed." He said, "I'm terribly sorry." He said, "I'm going to see a psychiatrist about it." He said, "And I should be all right after that." He said, "Well, bloody hell, get out." So anyway, the bloke gets out. A couple of weeks later, same bloke walks in. Barman said, "Oh, no, not you again." He said, "Look, I'm cured." He said, "I've seen the psychiatrist. I'm perfectly okay now." I said, "Okay." He said, "What do you have?" He said, "Pint of Guinness." A pint of Guinness, drinks it down, gets up on the bar, unzips his flies, and does exactly the same. Barman says, "Thought you said you're cured." He said, "I am." He said, "I don't get embarrassed anymore." And that just about sums up psychiatrists. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me this evening. And please join Colin and I for, it's a recorded program. Next, it'll be recorded Friday night, and it's loaded over the weekend. We will be covering disappearances, and that should be quite interesting, because a little story I've got about disappearances is that in the 1980s, I used to work in London. I was freelance, so I work all over the place, but mainly London, because that's where the old folding stuff is, the money. And there was a free magazine that was given out called Midweek. I don't know if it still exists, but it's a really good magazine. And they used to have other magazines such as Miss London and things like that, which were aimed for women, but Midweek was aimed for anybody, you see. And I used to pick it up in the morning and read it on the train on the way home, you see. And at the back of this, it was out every Wednesday, that was it. At the back of this magazine, there was several pages every week of people that's gone missing. Now, there was the usual one where, a teenage son had gone to London and have you seen this person, and they'd have a picture of them. But there were some that were really strange. And it wasn't just one or two, it was a load of them, where a happily married mother of two young children went down, this was one particular one I saw, went down to buy a loaf of bread at the local shop and was never seen again. And the police were baffled. She just disappeared off the face of the earth. And there's another one, a happily married man, and it was quite happily married. Got on the train, he was seen on the station in the morning. He never arrived at work. Never seen again. And there's loads of them like that. So, rather intriguing. There's more people that go missing than you realise. So don't get worried, I don't think. But what happened to them? So that's what we're looking at. So remember, always have a laugh, and please subscribe, tell others and share, and ding that little bell. Ding, 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 ding. And thank you very much for joining me this evening, and have a good week. I look forward to seeing you same time, 8 o'clock next Monday. And of course, don't forget the mystery hour every weekend. Thank you very much, and good night.